The genesis of power. The United Earth ship Prometheus hung in the void of space like a predator waiting to strike, its obsidian hull absorbing starlight rather than reflecting it. At 3 kilometers long, the vessel represented the pinnacle of human engineering, a masterpiece of destruction born from a species that had nearly torn itself apart countless times throughout history before finally uniting under the banner of survival. Captain Sora Chen stood on the command bridge, her amber eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the ship's trajectory toward the Orion Nebula. The neural implant at her temple pulsed with a soft blue light, connecting her consciousness directly to the Prometheus's quantum eye. It had been 20 years since humanity's first contact with alien civilization, and 15 since they learned the harsh truth. The galaxy was not a welcoming place. "Captain, final systems check complete," announced Commander Jackson, his dark skin contrasting with the pristine white of his uniform. "Graviton engines at optimal capacity. Phantom shield generators calibrated. Singularity cannon charged to 97%. Sora nodded, feeling the weight of command settle more heavily on her shoulders. "And the crew?" "All 5,000 personnel report ready. The civilian science team has been secured in the central habitation ring." The Prometheus wasn't just a warship, it was humanity's insurance policy. After the Centauri massacre, where an entire human colony had been obliterated by the Dracari Imperium under the pretense of containing primitive species, Earth's governments had finally set aside their differences. Resources poured into the United Earth Defense Force, with the Prometheus as its crowning achievement. "Captain," the ship's eye spoke, its voice a calm feminine tone that belied its incredible processing power. "Incoming transmission from Admiral Patel at Earth Command." The holographic display shifted, revealing the weathered face of Admiral Patel, the lines around his eyes deeper than when Sora had last seen him 6 months ago. "Captain Chen, the Galactic Council has officially lodged a protest against the Prometheus's deployment. They're claiming we violated the Treaty of Proxima by developing weapons of mass destruction." Sora's jaw tightened. The same treaty the Dracari conveniently ignored when they turned Centauri Prime into a radioactive wasteland. "Politics," Patel sighed. "Nevertheless, your mission parameters remain unchanged. The Prometheus is to patrol the disputed territories and gather intelligence on Dracari movements. Under no circumstances are you to engage unless directly threatened. And if we are threatened..." Patel's eyes hardened. "Then you show them exactly what humanity is capable of." The transmission ended, leaving Sora with the unspoken knowledge that the Prometheus carried more than just the hopes of humanity. It carried technologies that could alter the balance of power in the galaxy forever. 3 days later, as the Prometheus navigated the outer edges of the Orion Nebula, the ship's sensors detected anomalous energy signatures. "Multiple warp signatures detected," reported Lieutenant Quan from the tactical station. "Configuration matches Dracari battle cruisers, 7 vessels, Scorpion class. Raised phantom shields," Sora ordered calmly. "Power to defensive systems only." The Dracari were a reptilian species known for their aggressive expansion and technological prowess. Their society valued strength above all else, and they viewed humanity's rapid advancement as both a threat and an insult to their perceived superiority. "They're hailing us," Commander Jackson said. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a Dracari commander, his scaled face adorned with metallic implants denoting his high military rank. "Human vessel," the Dracari hissed, mandibles clicking in what intelligence reports identified as a sign of contempt. "You have entered restricted space. The Orion Nebula is under Imperium protection by decree of the Supreme Hierarch." Sora stood, making sure her captain's insignia was clearly visible. "This is Captain Sora Chen of the UES Prometheus. The Orion Nebula is neutral territory according to the Treaty of Proxima, which your government signed. We are conducting a scientific survey mission." The Dracari commander's yellow eyes narrowed. "Your vessel is clearly a warship. The Imperium will not tolerate human military presence this close to our core systems. We have the same right to defend our scientific expeditions as any species, Sora replied evenly, especially given recent incidents involving human colonies. The reference to the Centauri massacre wasn't subtle, and the Drakari commander's scales flushed a deeper red, a sign of anger. You have 1 standard hour to alter your course and leave this sector, he snarled before terminating the transmission. They're moving to surround us, Lieutenant Quan reported. Weapons charging. Commander Jackson looked to Sora. Orders, Captain. Sora's mind raced through tactical simulations, the neural implant feeding her probabilities and outcomes faster than normal human cognition could process. Maintain course. Bring the singularity cannon to full charge, but keep it powered down. Prepare graviton pulse emitters. The minutes ticked by intense silence, the Drakari vessels closing distance in a standard encirclement pattern. They clearly underestimated the Prometheus, expecting it to be comparable to previous human warships. They were wrong. Incoming fire, Quan shouted as the Drakari flagships launched a barrage of plasma torpedoes. Engage phantom shields, Sora ordered calmly. The space around the Prometheus seemed to bend and distort as the revolutionary defense system activated. Unlike conventional energy shields, phantom shields operated by phase-shifting matter in a controlled field around the ship, allowing incoming projectiles to pass through temporarily empty space. The Drakari torpedoes passed harmlessly through where the Prometheus appeared to be, detonating behind the massive vessel. Shields holding at 100%, reported the defense officer with a note of pride. No impact registered. The confusion from the Drakari fleet was evident in their sudden change of formation. They hadn't expected their opening salvo to be so completely ineffective. Now, Sora said, let's show them what humanity's been working on. Target the lead vessel with graviton emitters. Minimal yield. This is a warning shot. The Prometheus's lateral arrays pulsed with blue-white energy, distorting space around the lead Drakari cruiser. The graviton technology, reverse-engineered from artifacts discovered beneath the Martian surface, allowed for precise manipulation of gravitational fields. The Drakari ship suddenly lurched sideways as if struck by an invisible fist, its hull groaning under forces it wasn't designed to withstand. Systems across the vessel failed as gravity itself became a weapon. Their shields are down, Quan reported. They're venting atmosphere from 3 decks. Open a channel, Sora ordered. The Drakari commander appeared again, green blood seeping from a gash on his forehead, the bridge around him filled with smoke and flashing emergency lights. That was a demonstration, Sora stated flatly. The Prometheus carries technologies your scientists have likely theorized, but never successfully implemented. We can crush your vessels without firing a single conventional weapon. Fear, an emotion rarely seen in Drakari, flashed across the commander's reptilian features. This act of aggression will not stand. The full might of the Imperium will. Will what? Sora interrupted. Massacre another defenseless colony. We're not defenseless anymore, Commander. The Prometheus is just the first of its class. Earth is done being bullied by species that mistake our peaceful intentions for weakness. Before the Drakari could respond, a junior officer rushed to his side, whispering urgently. The commander's expression shifted from anger to shock. Impossible, he hissed. Your vessel cannot have those readings. Sora allowed herself a small smile. The Drakari sensors had finally detected the true nature of the Prometheus' power core. It contained artificial singularity, harnessing energy in ways that violated what most species considered possible. Leave this sector, Sora commanded, and inform your supreme hierarch that the rules of engagement have changed. The battle that followed was brief but decisive. 2 Drakari cruisers attempted to flank the Prometheus, only to have their weapons systems completely disabled by precisely targeted graviton pulses. Another tried to call reinforcements, before discovering that the Prometheus's quantum communication jammers operated at ranges previously thought impossible. Within 20 minutes, the Drakari fleet was in full retreat, leaving behind one crippled cruiser that could no longer achieve warp speed. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Commander Jackson approached Sora at the tactical display. "They'll be back with a larger force." "I'm counting on it," Sora replied. "Intelligence needs to assess their response times and fleet coordination." "Captain," the ship's AI interrupted. "I've completed analysis of the data intercepted from the Drakari command ship during the engagement." "Report." The Drakari weren't simply patrolling this sector. They were using the nebula's radiation to mask a massive fleet buildup. Further, I've decrypted communications indicating the Centauri massacre wasn't an isolated incident. It was a test run. Sora felt ice form in her veins. A test run for what? "The complete sterilization of Earth, Captain. The Drakari Supreme Hierarch has authorized what they call the purification to commence within the next 60 Earth days." The command bridge fell silent as the implications became clear. The Prometheus hadn't just won a skirmish, it had accidentally uncovered a plot to exterminate humanity. "Set course for the disabled Drakari vessel," Sora ordered, her voice hardened with resolve. "Prepare boarding teams. I want their navigation data, command codes, and anything else that might give us insight into their plans." As the Prometheus glided towards the crippled alien ship, Sora knew that the real war was just beginning. Humanity's ultimate warship was about to fulfill its purpose, not just as a defender, but as the spearhead of a species fighting for its very survival. Defiance of destiny. The briefing room was silent as the holographic display showed the full extent of the Drakari's plans. Captain Sora Chen stood at the head of the table, her uniform still bearing scorch marks from the boarding action that had secured the enemy vessel's data core. Around her sat the Prometheus's senior staff, their faces grim as they processed the magnitude of the threat facing Earth. "The intelligence we extracted confirms our worst fears," Sora began, her voice steady despite the exhaustion etched on her features. "The Drakari have been assembling a purification fleet at their forward base in the Rigel system. 300 ships, including 20 Planet Killer-class dreadnoughts." Commander Jackson leaned forward, his fingers steepled. "Even with the Prometheus's capabilities, we can't hope to engage a force that size directly." "No," Sora agreed. "But we don't have to. Dr. Winters, please explain what your team discovered." The head of the civilian science contingent, a slight woman with prematurely white hair, stepped forward. "The Drakari vessels utilize a unique quantum entanglement system for faster-than-light communication. It's what allows their fleets to coordinate with near-perfect synchronization." She tapped a command, and a hologram shifted to display a complex network of energy signatures. But every entangled system has a central node, a quantum hub that serves as the master coordination point. Lieutenant Quan's eyes widened with understanding. "If we can locate and disable that hub, their entire fleet becomes isolated units, forced to rely on conventional communication methods that we can jam." Dr. Winters finished. "Their perfect coordination advantage disappears." Strategic Officer Rice, a veteran of the Earth-Mars conflicts, frowned. "That hub will be deep in Drakari territory, probably their homeworld itself. Getting there undetected would be impossible." "Not necessarily," Sora replied, nodding to the ship's AI to change the display again. "During the boarding action, we discovered something else, something the Drakari have been keeping secret even from their allies in the Galactic Council." The hologram showed a star system with unusual energy flows between planets. "This is the Velen system. 6 years ago, the Drakari claimed it was uninhabitable due to radiation from its star. In reality, they conquered and enslaved an advanced species called the Velen, forcing them to develop weapons technology. The Velen are renowned engineers," Dr. Winters added. "Their theoretical work on dimensional physics was groundbreaking before they went silent. We always assumed they'd destroy themselves. The Drakari are using them to build their purification fleet," Sora continued. "But according to the intelligence we gathered, there's significant resistance among the Velen population. If we can make contact with their underground movement, we might find allies who can help us reach the quantum hub. The plan was audacious, borderline suicidal. The Prometheus would use its superior stealth technology to penetrate deep into Drakari space, make contact with the Velen resistance, and strike at the heart of the Imperium's communication network. 3 weeks later, the Prometheus drifted silently through the outer reaches of the Velen system, its phantom shields configured to absorb all sensor probes rather than deflect them. The ship's massive engines were cold, with only minimal power flowing to essential systems. Drakari patrol passing at 3 million kilometers, reported Lieutenant Quan from the tactical station. Their scanning patterns show no deviation. We remain undetected. Sora nodded, her neural implant feeding her real-time updates on the ship's systems. The Prometheus had undergone significant modifications since the encounter in the Orion Nebula. Its hull now incorporated adaptive metamaterials that could change configuration based on threat assessments, and the Singularity cannon had been refined to allow for surgical precision strikes. "Deploy the stealth shuttle," she ordered. "Commander Jackson, you have operational command until my return." Jackson's head snapped up. "Captain, protocol dictates that you remain aboard during high-risk operations. Protocol also dictates that first contact scenarios require the highest-ranking officer present," Sora countered, already moving toward the elevator. "The villain will be more likely to trust us if I lead the contact team personally." The surface of Velen Prime was a study in contrasts. Once gleaming cities of crystalline spires now stood half-ruined, their elegant architecture marred by the utilitarian additions of Drakari occupation forces. The atmosphere was thick with industrial pollutants from massive factories that sprawled across what had once been pristine wilderness. Sora's contact team, consisting of herself, Dr. Winters, and 2 special operations soldiers, moved silently through underground tunnels that predated the Drakari invasion. Their guide was a Velen named Ethris, his translucent skin glowing faintly in the darkness. "Your arrival was foretold," Ethris said, his voice a melodic whisper that the universal translators struggled to properly convey. "Our seers spoke of sky warriors coming from the void to break our chains." Dr. Winters exchanged a skeptical glance with Sora. "We didn't come here based on prophecy, Ethris. We need your help to stop the Drakari from attacking our homeworld." The Velen's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "All paths are connected. Your fight for survival and our fight for freedom. They are branches of the same tree." The Resistance headquarters was a marvel of engineering, hidden within a massive geothermal cavern beneath the planet's crust. Hundreds of Velen moved about with purpose, maintaining equipment that appeared to be amalgamations of their own technology and stolen Drakari components. "For 6 of your Earth years, we have prepared," explained Ethris as he led them to a central chamber where older Velen sat in a circle, their bodies connected by filaments of living light. "The Drakari believe they have broken our will, that we serve them out of fear. In truth, we have been embedding weaknesses into every system we build for them. Weaknesses that could help us reach their quantum communication hub," Sora asked. "Better," replied a female Velen, rising from the circle. Her name was Lyria, and she appeared to hold a position of authority among the Resistance. "We can give you the exact dimensional coordinates for their hub, and a means to bypass their defenses entirely." Dr. Winters stepped forward eagerly. "You've developed stable dimensional transport technology. That's decades beyond what even our theoretical models suggest is possible." Lyria made a gesture that the translators interpreted as both affirmation and warning. "At great cost, the Drakari wished us to develop weapons that could strike through dimensional barriers. We gave them what they wanted, but kept the true breakthrough for ourselves." She led them to a circular platform surrounded by crystalline pillars. "This gate can create a momentary fold in space-time, allowing matter to pass directly from one point to another without traversing the distance between." "A wormhole generator," Sora breathed. "Crude, but accurate," Lyria acknowledged. "We can send your warship directly to the quantum hub, but there is a price for our help." "Name it," Sora said without hesitation. When you strike at the heart of their empire, you must also destroy the genetic repository on their homeworld. Lyria's voice hardened. The Drakari don't just conquer species, they harvest our genetic material, seeking to incorporate desirable traits into their own genome. They believe this is their divine right, as the firstborn of the galaxy. The revelation sent a chill through Sora. That's why they targeted Earth, for our genetic material. Partially, Ethris interjected. But humans possess something the Drakari fear even more than they desire. Your adaptability, your cognitive flexibility. They see it as a threat to their ordained place in the cosmic hierarchy. Armed with the Velen's dimensional coordinates and a modified version of their gate technology, the Prometheus prepared for its most daring mission yet. The ship's engineers worked around the clock to integrate the alien technology with their own systems, creating what the crew had begun calling the dimensional fold drive. Simulation complete, announced the ship's eye. Probability of successful dimensional transition, 78%, and the remaining 22%. Commander Jackson asked. Catastrophic molecular disintegration of all matter within the fold radius, the eye replied matter-of-factly. Sora studied the final mission parameters on her personal display. Those are better odds than we'll have against a 300-ship armada. Begin final preparations for dimensional jump. As the Prometheus disengaged from the hidden Velen base and moved to a designated safe distance for the jump, Sora addressed the entire crew via ship-wide communication. In approximately 40 minutes, we will execute a dimensional fold maneuver that will place us directly within the Drakari home system. We will have perhaps 30 seconds of complete surprise before their defenses respond. In that time, we must disable their quantum communication hub and target their genetic repository. She paused, aware that what she was asking might constitute a death sentence for everyone aboard. I won't lie to you. The chances of the Prometheus surviving this mission are low, but the stakes couldn't be higher. If we fail, Earth and every human colony will face extinction. Dimensional fold drive at full charge, reported engineering. Ready on your command, Captain. Sora took a deep breath, her hand hovering over the authorization panel. Execute fold maneuver. Reality itself seemed to stretch and distort around the massive warship. Stars smeared into lines, then vanished altogether as the Prometheus passed through a realm where conventional physics held no meaning. For a subjective eternity that the ship's chronometers measured as merely 2.3 seconds, they existed everywhere and nowhere. Then, with a soundless flash that nonetheless reverberated through every atom of the ship, the Prometheus emerged in high orbit above Drakari Prime, a rust-colored world encircled by defensive platforms and military installations. Dimensional transition successful, the AI confirmed. All systems operational. We have achieved complete tactical surprise. Fire singularity cannon. Sora ordered without hesitation. Target the quantum hub. The Prometheus's primary weapon discharge, a concentrated beam of energy that manipulated space-time itself. Where it struck the orbital installation housing the quantum hub, matter compressed to an infinitesimal point before exploding outward in a controlled cascade of radiation. Hub neutralized, Tactical reported. Drakari fleet communications are fragmenting across all monitored channels. Target genetic repository. Sora continued, even as the first defensive platforms began to turn their weapons toward the human vessel. The graviton emitters powered up, focusing a precisely calibrated field around the massive complex on the planet's surface. The technology didn't destroy the repository directly. Instead, it altered the fundamental forces holding its molecular structure together. Across the galaxy, Drakari vessels suddenly lost contact with their command structure. The carefully orchestrated purification fleet dissolved into individual units without central coordination. Their perfect synchronization advantage vanished in an instant. Multiple vessels converging on our position, Quan reported as alarms blared across the bridge. Dimensional fold drive needs 7 minutes to recharge for a return jump. Evasive pattern Sigma. Sora ordered. Deploy all countermeasures. We just need to survive long enough to make the jump back. The battle that followed would later be described in human historical records as the 7 Minutes of Fire. The Prometheus, though vastly outnumbered, used its revolutionary defenses and weapon systems to devastating effect. Phantom shields absorbed barrage after barrage, while graviton pulses disabled Dracari vessels with surgical precision. Fold drive charge, engineering reported, just as a lucky shot from a Dracari dreadnought breached the Phantom shields and carved a molten furrow along the Prometheus's port side. Execute emergency jump, Sora commanded, bracing against her command chair as damage reports flooded in. Once again, reality bent around the human warship. When it emerged back in friendly space, the Prometheus was heavily damaged but intact, and carrying with it the data that would change the course of galactic history forever. In the aftermath, as Earth prepared its defenses against potential Dracari retaliation, Sora sat alone in her quarters, reviewing the intelligence extracted from the brief but decisive mission. The villain had been right. The Dracari claimed to be the firstborn of sentient species in the galaxy, genetically engineering themselves over millennia by harvesting traits from conquered races. But the most shocking discovery was buried deep in their historical archives. Humanity wasn't just another species to be harvested or eliminated. According to Dracari records dating back thousands of years, humans were descended from a faction of their own ancestors who had rejected genetic manipulation and fled to a distant, primitive world to evolve naturally. The Dracari hadn't sought to destroy humanity out of mere territorial expansion. They had been attempting to erase the living proof that their divine mandate, to rule the galaxy through artificial evolution, was a choice, not destiny. As the Prometheus limped home to a hero's welcome, humanity began to assert itself in galactic politics with newfound confidence. The Velen Rebellion, emboldened by the crippling of Dracari military coordination, erupted into full revolution across occupied territories. 6 months later, representatives from 27 species gathered on neutral ground to sign the New Orion Accord, a mutual defense pact with humanity and the liberated Velen as its founding members. The balance of power had shifted irreversibly. The ultimate warship had done more than save Earth. It had triggered the beginning of a new galactic order, one where humanity's voice would never again be ignored.